Hey, my name is Ray Raynette, and I'm an illustrator cartoonist, and I'm the sole creator of a little-known comic series named Junket. I actually managed to self-publish it recently, and I've actually wanted to talk a little bit about why it is I made the book that I did. Right? So, if you manage to get your hands on a copy, and I highly recommend it, big 54 pages. It's not thin. It's actually very dense. Has a lot of extra back matter and things. If none of you guys ever saw it, highly recommend you get one. But I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about who it is I am and why it is that I chose the medium that I chose. So I've been drawing ever since I was a little kid, and ever since I could remember, I always wanted to kind of create this world where I could just kind of escape into. I wanted to really find some sort of place where I felt like I belonged. A lot of the times my friends never really understood why I was so passionate or so obsessed about these things, right? They didn't understand exactly why it is I loved it so much. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, my background, a little bit about my inspirations and the things that I really enjoy, right? So the reason why I chose a comic book is because if you really think about it, you could get someone like Shakespeare and someone like Michelangelo. You could team them up to make a masterpiece for the ages, right? You could get them together to make this kind of like collaborative effort. At the end of the day, if you get the best writer and the best illustrator, you're just going to get an amazing masterpiece of a comic book. So people don't seem to realize that the potential of the actual medium. It manages to blend both styles, both things that we think are kind of like mundane or routine, but it's actually a way for us to translate information, right? It's images and words all in one. Some of my favorite things I've ever read were probably The Mighty Thor by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, mostly because it was this kind of like otherworldly presence to it. It had this kind of superiority, right? To me, Thor was kind of like Superman, but done right. It was Superman, but more relatable, more grounded. He had girl problems. He had times where he didn't feel at his fullest. He wasn't at full capacity, at full strength. He didn't have a kryptonite or anything, gimmicky like that. Sometimes he would, masquerade as a normal human being, as a normal person, right? So a lot of these characters from Marvel, including Spider-Man and all those, they always kind of felt more grounded, more relatable, even though they had fantasy and adventure, and they would go off on their adventures and their strange kind of mystery, science fiction kind of stuff. It was always fascinating, but my favorite thing was definitely the relatability. So in my book, I wanted to present the character as a very down-to-earth, very relatable person. Right? In the first panel, you literally get to see him just slouching on the couch, clicking at the remote control and just like sipping on a Slurpee and stuff, right? On some shaved ice. But I wanted it to feel like my characters don't have to be superheroes. They don't have to be anyone, spectacular. It could just be anyone. You could be the main character of your story as you are. And I wanted to present that in a way that kind of made sense. One of the things I learned recently, both by Jordan Peterson and Joseph Campbell as well, they talked about mythology and the reasoning behind these characters and these figments, right? I think I resonated with Thor specifically was because I was fascinated with Norse and Greek mythology. I kind of wanted to tap into that with these like kind of historical like fairy tales of like years long gone. I wanted to kind of bring that stuff kind of back in a modern sense, but not give it this dark, drab look with these muted tones like modern comics do. I really wanted to just kind of give that just splash of color, the half tones all over the place, and just the sense of action and dynamism that Kirby brought to his comics. Jack Kirby was a huge influence, definitely. I had to research a bunch of his books, But I wasn't just only fixating on the Marvel stuff. I was looking at old Bob Kane and the Siegel and Schuster Superman. I wanted to see where superheroes were really born and where they kind of come from, and see what it is I could really do with what they've already laid before me, right? They already laid the groundwork, and I wanted to simply see how I could take it further. Because currently it feels like we're just regurgitating the same characters, the same stories. It feels like nothing new has really come out in a long time. So I kind of wanted to present a new world, a fresh, new take on comic books. I wanted it to still keep the youthful spirit, right? Because my book is for all ages. It could be from a 4-year-old to an adult. It could be anyone, really. It's kind of funny. My grandmother, it was I caught her just kind of skimming through it. She didn't really understand it well, right? But she loved the images and the way that it would like bounce from one thing to the other. And I think that's kind of charming. The fact that it has its many different kind of like, it kind of reaches people on a different level. And that's why I love comics so much. It's the perfect medium because you don't have to take it too seriously, but if you want to, you can, right? So like I was saying about these mythological beings and things, like I could bring all of this kind of metaphorical, kind of like superpowered, strange, trippy stuff and just like downgrade it, distill it into a simple story. And it could serve both purposes, right? It's shooting two birds with one stone. You get to still have the fun, lighthearted, action-packed stuff while still having like the deeper kind of resonance, the resonance with the audience and the reader, right? That's the key, is to be able to spark the imagination and to be able to just kind of bring all these things together and kind of make it and present it and package it in a way that kind of like perfects it and kind of gives it to the world. My work is not perfect by any means. This is my first self-published comic, so I'm still learning. I'm still kind of going from I'm stumbling from one thing to the other. I think there's this funny phrase of like, I'm stumbling my way to paradise, right? I'm kind of like falling forward, but I'm still going forward. I'm just trying to see what sticks, trying new things. Realistically, I'm just entertaining myself while I work. I don't really think about how others will read it or how they will interpret it. I just want to make the book that I want to read. The type of book that I don't really see on the stands anymore. It feels like everything is just the same rehashed story, repeated and regurgitated and replastered, remade, facsimiles. I don't care for these things. I love facsimiles, don't get me wrong, like the reprints of older stories, but I don't like the fact that they just take the same formulas and just crank it out again and again. I feel like we have to kind of break through this and kind of push the medium forward somehow. My stuff is not revolutionary by any means, but I do realize that it has a varying difference to it. It's a different flavor, it's a different aesthetic. One of my buddies, he said my art style is very American, and I think what he means by that was like the little Mickey Mouse eye cartoons and the little bit of like Jack Kirby and Superman mixed in there, right? A bit of Disney and Kirby, right? So I think that kind of gives it that feel, that vintage kind of classic all-American comic book aesthetic, which I'm definitely going for. That Great Depression kind of like bestseller. I think that's kind of cool. I think it's definitely the aesthetic I'm going for, and definitely was influenced by kind of modern things as well, not just the retro stuff, but the kind of love letter to those early works and the printing process, right? The CMYK, the Ben-Day dots and things, the halftones, the zipatones, all these things. I just think they're kind of misrepresented currently in the modern age. They're not fully articulated to the best of their ability. They're not really used to their fullest potential. I believe probably the best probably the best use of those things was probably the Spider-Verse movies, and just the way to see it on screen, just bouncing with color and with the dots and the halftones and the Kirby crackle and the dynamism and the motion and it's beautiful, right? But I was thinking, I was like, wow, that's a really good comic book inspired movie. Why don't comic books look like this? Why have we lost that? Did they ever really look like that? And frankly, no. They, the yellow pages with the bad printing didn't really. It wasn't all that great. We romanticize it with rose-tinted goggles when we look back, but ultimately the artwork wasn't great. It was very limited, and it was advanced for its time, but it was very much a product of its time period. I think Junket is very much a product of our current time period. If Kirby made Captain America for the war times, then I think now, as I'm living and breathing, there is no great battle that the entire America is going towards, right? They're not going through anything except their own kind of internal struggles, their own kind of hesitation, their own fears to go out and live, right? I feel like after the pandemic, we've been stuck at home and we've been kind of stuck in the comfort zone, right? I feel as though we've kind of reduced ourselves to like the barest minimum. We kind of choose to half-ass things instead of really going out there and grabbing it. We've kind of lost that touch a little bit, and I kind of wanted to represent that through my character. I wanted to distill that concept, right, of the person who feels stuck, the person who feels as though they're not doing enough, but they know that they could do more, but they feel like they can't even escape from the box they've been placed, right? I wanted to represent a character that could be anyone without having a mask over his face. I wanted it to be a human with no powers. I wanted it to be someone that you could even know. I wanted my character to represent something familiar, right? Something that was somewhat intimate. It represents an emotion, a feeling that we've all felt. And I want to represent that through the character Oscar, right? He's this main character. He's this kind of goofy, bearded comic book lover. I was definitely a lot like him when I was more overweight. But I think we all have a little bit of Oscar within us. We all have that kind of hesitation, that kind of doubt, insecurity, and the strange compulsive obsessions of our weird little worlds, I think we're all kind of like fanatics about something at one point or another. Even if we end up managing to get that thing done, we still manage to feel surprised by it. We still manage to feel kind of in love of it. We're still at awe. We're still looking at it like it's something that's unachievable, something that's above us, something that's really not here now. And I wanted to represent that through this kind of magical place, this ancient kind of world that we all know exists, but we can't see it, right? I basically took all of the mythological creatures and the mythological history and lore of humankind, all of the ancient gods and all of the ancient stories, the fairy tales. I wanted to be able to put all of these things into a specific place, and that culminated into Oscar quitting his job and finding himself in this magic place that drawed him to it, called the Enchanted Forest. And what it is really this dome. It's like this hidden dome, this bubble in the middle of the garden, in the middle of the forest, right? And he stumbles upon it, and he's allured to it because it's something that's new. It's different, but it's familiar. It's something that alludes to the old kind of things, the olden times, but it's here, it's now, it's in the present, it's tangible, right? It's the past reincarnated, and that's kind of what I wanted to represent. I wanted my character to represent a modern mythological story, right? With comedic terms. I wanted it to be funny, and I wanted it to resonate amongst all ages. I wanted it to be relatable. So the whole time while the narrator, right, in the book is talking about how, Oscar knows he shouldn't be here, we see Oscar being impressed by it. He's like, I'm so glad I quit my job. He's like, he's happy, he's excited, he's out there venturing into the unknown. He's stepping through his own hero's journey, which I think we all have to eventually go through with time, right? A character wants something, they have to go out and get it, but they lose something in the process. but eventually they understand and learn that moral, that lesson, and they return back to where they began, but having changed, right? Once I realized that the hero's journey is circulated throughout all of not only mythology, theology, history, and all of the books in the world, it's fascinating. It even circulates in our own life. It encompasses what we know and what we love and what we do. Everything is the hero's journey because you are the hero of your own story. And that's exactly what Junket represents. The reason why the book is called Junket, well, the phrase itself, Junket, the name, the word means a trip at someone else's expense, right? It's an adventure that's given to you at someone else's expense. And that's exactly what it is. It's my labor of love. It's my kind of sacrifice for you guys. I want you guys, the audience, the readers, whoever it is, to go out and enjoy it and to learn something from it. I want them to be able to escape the mundane with just a few pages, and it sparks the imagination, and it gets their mind going, it gets them feeling active again. I wanted to allude to the sensations of freedom, of escapism, the kind of feeling that it's so difficult to achieve nowadays because everything's just the same. Everything's become content instead of being actual profound artwork. It's not meaningful anymore, it's just mass produced. And my stuff is not AI generated. My stuff is not at all created through artificial intelligence. My stuff is handmade. My stuff is fully, the classic way. It may be done digitally. I may be doing it on a Wacom screen using Clip Studio, but that doesn't mean it's any less valuable. It still takes the same amount of time it probably did all the greats do. And I'm coloring it, writing it, sketching it with pencil, inking it with blackline, editing it, formatting it, and self-publishing it, and promoting it. It's a lot of work. It's really not an endeavor I thought would be easy, but nothing that's worthwhile in this life is easy. So why not take the risk? Why not gamble, right? Why not be a little bit like the character? Why not be like Oscar? Why not kind of just start fresh? Why not go for it, right? Why not try? I want my readers to come out of the experience feeling confident, right? I want them to realize that they could do anything without superpowers. They don't have to be a hero. They don't have to do anything. They can still be their best self. I want my readers to learn from it. And I want them to be entertained. That is the whole point of a comic book, is to inspire, entertain, and just to act as escapism. I really do believe that there's no other greater purpose in life than to make not only yourself, but to make everyone around you proud of what you've done. I want everyone to know just how much it really has taken. I really want everyone to realize just how far they can go and to tap into their potential. Because the parties, the fear of missing out, the FOMO, right? The drinking, the smoking, the gambling, the strangers, the hookups, the dates, all of that stuff, it's not going anywhere. So why not take a gamble on something that doesn't always last that long? Tomorrow isn't promised, so why not take a risk and live now rather than wishing upon a star for tomorrow? Tomorrow's not promised. There is no tomorrow. So you have to seize the moment and live now. My name is RaryNet, and I'm the illustrator and cartoonist and creator of Junket. I'm also the founder of Farlook Studios. So, all of these things and more is what I want to bring to you. It's an adventure that you will have at my expense. Thank you all for watching, and I wish you the best. Keep drawing, keep making comics. Keep reading more. Bye.